Hello, Wheeler students. It's Mr. B here. I bet you're wondering why I'm not in school. Well, I won't be in school the week or two before Christmas break, and I usually read the Polar Express. If you remember correctly, in the past, I go around to each classroom. It's one of my favorite things to do around this time of year, and that is to come to your classrooms and read the Polar Express. And I'm in my bathrobe, my slippers, my fancy dancy Santa hat, and I'm excited to read this to you. And I have to do it remotely in a video because I'm out of school for some personal reasons and to get a procedure done. But I'll be fine, and I will be back next year, meaning January 2nd, 2025. I hope to be back on that day. I might be a little later, but my goal is to be back on January 22nd. So in the meantime, let's get down to having some fun and read The Polar Express by Chris Van Allsburg. I hope you are comfy and cozy where you are right now in your classroom, on the rug, looking at the video stream, on the interactive board. You may or may not be wearing pajamas. I don't know. Maybe you got a comfy stuffy. I don't know. But I'm comfy right here in my bathrobe, my slippers, and my little hat. Here we go. The Polar Express by Chris Van Allsburg. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly. Oh, hang on. Let me make an adjustment. It's been a while since I've done this, boys and girls. Be patient. Thank you. Let me see. All right. That'll be good. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was listening for a sound a friend had told me I'd never hear, the ringing bells of Santa's sleigh. There is no Santa, my friend had insisted, but I knew he was wrong. Late that night, I did hear sounds, though not of ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal, and I looked through my window and saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in an apron of steam. Snowflakes fell lightly around it. A conductor stood at the open door of one of the cars. He took a large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I put on my slippers and robe, and I tiptoed downstairs and out the door. All aboard, the conductor cried out, and I ran up to him. Well, he said, are you coming? Where? I asked. Why, to the North Pole, of course, was his answer. This is the Polar Express. So I took his outstretched hand, and he pulled me aboard. The train was filled with other children, all in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candies with nougat centers as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa as thick and rich as melted chocolate bars. And outside, the lights of the towns and villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. Soon, there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through the cold, dark forest where lean wolves roamed and white-tailed rabbits hid from our train as it thundered through the quiet wilderness. We climbed mountains so high it seemed as if we could scrape the moon, but the Polar Express never slowed down. Faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys like a car on a roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills, the hills to snow-covered plains, and we crossed barren desert ice, the great polar ice cap. Lights appeared into the distance, and they looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on a frozen sea. There, said the conductor, is the North Pole. Make sure I show it to you. The North Pole. It was a huge city standing alone at the top of the world, filled with factories where every Christmas toy was made. At first, we saw no elves. They are gathering at the center of the city, the conductor told us. That is where the city Santa will give the first gift of Christmas. Well, who gives the first gift? We all asked. The conductor answered, he will choose one of you. Get my finger in the right spot here. One of you. Haven't done this in a long time, boys and girls. Done a video. Last time I did it was December 20th, 2021 during COVID. So some of you older students that are in 5th and 4th grade might remember that. All right. Next, look, shouted one of the children, the elves. And outside we saw hundreds of elves. As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed to a crawl. So crowded were the streets with Santa's helpers. When the Polar Express could go no farther, we stopped and the conductor led us outside. We pressed through the crowd to the edge of a large open circle, and in front of us stood Santa's sleigh. The reindeer were excited. They pranced and paced, ringing the silver sleigh bells that hung from their harnesses. It was a magical sound like nothing I ever heard. And across the circle, the elves moved apart, and Santa Claus appeared. And the elves cheered wildly. He marched over to us and pointing to me, he said, "Let's have this fellow here." He jumped into his sleigh. The conductor handed me up. I sat on Santa's knee and he asked, "Now, what would you like for Christmas?" I knew that I could have any gift I could imagine, but the thing I wanted most for Christmas was not inside Santa's giant bag. What I wanted more than anything was one silver bell from Santa's sleigh. And when I asked, Santa smiled, and then he gave me a hug and told an elf to cut a bell from a reindeer's harness. The elf tossed it up to Santa, and he stood holding the bell high above him and called out, "The first gift of Christmas!" A clock struck midnight, and as the elves roared their approval, Santa handed me the bell, and I put it back in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh, and Santa shouted out the reindeers' names, and he cracked his whips. His team charged forward and climbed into the air, and Santa circled once above us, then disappeared into the cold, dark polar sky. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked to see the bell. I reached into my pocket, but the only thing I felt was a hole. I had lost a silver bell from Santa Claus's sleigh. "Let's hurry outside and look for it," one of the children said, but the train gave a sudden lurch and started moving. We were on our way home. He looks pretty sad. Well, it broke my heart to lose the bell. And when the train reached my house, I sadly left the other children. I stood at my doorway and waved goodbye. The conductor said something from the moving train, but I couldn't hear him. "What?" I yelled out. He cupped his hands around his mouth. "Merry Christmas!" he shouted, and the Polar Express let out a loud blast from its whistle and sped away. On Christmas morning, my little sister and I opened our presents, and when it looked as if everything had been unwrapped, Sarah found one last small box behind the tree. It had my name on it. Inside was the silver bell. There was a note. "Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Fix that hole in your pocket. Signed, Mr. C." Now, who do you think Mr. C is? Nope, it's not Mr. Clown. Nope, it's not Mr. Charismatic. Yes, it's Mr. Claus. That means Mr. Santa Claus. Very good. If you said Mr. Claus, you were correct. That's Santa. So I shook the bell and it made the most beautiful sound my sister and I had ever heard. But my mother said, "Oh, that's too bad." "Yes," said my father, "it's broken." And when I'd shaken the bell, my parents had not heard a sound. At one time, most of my friends could hear the bell, but as years passed, it fell silent for all of them. Even Sarah found one Christmas that she could no longer hear its sweet sound. Though I've grown old, the bell still rings for me as it does for all who truly believe. Now, right now, I'm shaking in my pocket. Can you hear the bell? Listen. Can you hear it? Raise your hand if you can hear the bell. Now, I see some of you can hear the bell, but some of you don't. You got to listen. You got to believe. You believe in Santa. He's coming down your chimney on Christmas Day or Christmas evening, Christmas Eve, and you will have presents on Christmas Day. You don't see him, but you believe in him. Sometimes you got to believe in things that you don't necessarily see and hear, but you got to believe they exist. I'm shaking the bell right now to hear it. All right. Boys and girls, I hope you enjoyed the story. I'm wishing all of you a happy Hanukkah, a happy Kwanzaa, a Merry Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Have a happy and safe, healthy holiday and nice vacation. And I will see you back after school vacation at the start of the new year, hopefully on January 2nd, 2025. If not, maybe a few days later, but probably on January 2nd, 2025. All right. I miss you all. Have a great day.